Guest of honor, Dr. Randolph Bourne and Mrs. Lynette Murray. Principal, Mrs. Stacia Austin. Guest speaker, Major Michael Boyce, who is also the battalion commander for this division and representing the acting commandant of the Barbados Cadet Corps. Founding members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, cadets, good afternoon. I am Lieutenant Commander John Walcott, founding member of the legendary No. 4 Cadet Company, and your master of ceremonies for this afternoon's proceedings. And it's really heartwarming to see so many friends this afternoon from way back, and some new ones as well. All with one common thread, the No. 4 Company at Ellerslie. Of course, there are many more of you would have loved to be here in our midst this afternoon, but as you're well aware, we have a silent enemy who is not planning to leave us, it seems, anytime soon in the name of COVID-19. Also, unfortunately, there are some who are very dear to us who are unable to join us in the flesh, but I believe who are here with us in spirit, as they have transitioned to the great beyond. And I look at the spaces in between us, and I wonder. At this time, I invite you to stand and join me in a moment of silence as we acknowledge our fallen comrades. In the names of Maureen Olivia Noel, who transitioned on November 9th, 1992. Maxine Bevel, January 14th, 2004. Trevor Pollard, March 25th, 2004. Roger Horatio Messiah, March 22nd, 2017. Rosalind Smith Croney, July 28th, 2017. And last but not least, our beloved Sergeant Presteen Sobers-Elliott, February 6, 2019. To start the evening off in the correct manner, I would like to invite Ronnie Roberts, pastor and founding member of the No. 4 Company, to lead us in prayer.
A blessed good evening to all, and thanks for joining us this evening. No better way we can start this proceeding than looking to the Lord Almighty, who's responsible for us being present here this evening. This is the day the Lord hath made, and the day we shall all rejoice and be glad in it. Let's look to the Lord in prayer. Mighty and gracious Father, we give thanks and praise to your most holy and wonderful name. Dear Lord, as we look upon this occasion, we look at those who were instrumental in the lives as many of us here as young people when we were growing up, who were there to nourish us and to direct us and to help us. Dear Lord, we are grateful and thankful for Sergeant Bourne and Presteen Sobers, all of those who were instrumental in the lives of our people here this evening gathered together in developing us and helping us along this life's journey. So we want to give you praise this evening for this occasion that is being put together, for all those who would have spent the time and hours to have this event drawn together, and for those who've traveled to be here with us this evening, and for all those who are on island and join with us this evening, even in this occasion as was spoken concerning the COVID situation. But we're delighted to have each and every one here this evening, dear Lord, And we pray that you will lead this event in all that was supposed to be taking place this evening. You will guide and direct all that is said and done. May it bring glory and honor to your name. Amen.
At this time, I'm going to invite to give the welcome remarks Lieutenant Commander Brian Roberts, founding member. Brian, if you're so kind.
Guest of honor, Dr. Randolph Bourne. Guest of honor, Mrs. Lynette Murray. Commander of Number 3 Battalion of the Barbados Cadet Corps, and he's also acting on behalf of the acting on behalf of the Commandant of the Cadet Corps, Major Michael Boyce. Distinguished guests, founding members of the Number 4 Company, members of the media, if you have any here, and obviously our representative from the current members of the Number 4 Cadet Company. A warm welcome to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this beautiful V. Udine Bartow Auditorium here at the Ellerslie School. We thank you for joining us on this special occasion as we pay tribute to two of our founding members who spearheaded the establishment of the new cadet company here at the then Ellerslie Secondary School back in 1978. Let me first take this opportunity to especially welcome our two honored guests, namely Dr. Bourne, who was instrumental in the formation of the cadet company here at Ellerslie and has journeyed a long way from the USA, where he lives, New York, USA, to be with us here today. Dr. Bourne, welcome. Our second honoree is the late Mrs. Presteen Sobers-Elliott, who will be honored posthumously, and she's represented here this afternoon by her sister, Mrs. Lynette Murray. Regrettably, Mrs. Sobers-Elliott widower, Dave Elliott, was unable to attend, but he sent his regards, and he'll be keeping tab on things, and we will send him a copy of the recording, okay? So you won't be left out. It's our pleasure that you could finally join us to celebrate your contributions to the cadets, and by extension, the development of the youth in our societies throughout our country. We look forward to hearing from you both when you deliver your remarks later in the program. Now, in late 2019, a group of 6 of us, along with our longtime friend and mentor, Major Patrick Skeet, who was a former Chief Executive Officer of the Cadets, along with the then Principal of the Ellerslie Secondary School, Lieutenant Colonel Earl Braffett, myself, John, Jasmine, Denise, Caroline, and Anthony Hall, we all came together and conceptualized this event so that we can find a proper way in which we can honor our founding leaders. Now, planning immediately commenced back in 2019 for this event, which was originally slated to be held in 2020, but was unfortunately halted or stopped in our tracks because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Okay? However, we were not fazed by this development, but remained focused on our goal. At least one thing we should have learned from COVID is that there are many things that we don't have control over. And therefore, you should remember not to stress yourselves, but rather learn how to adapt to our changing environment. We certainly adapted by continuing the planning virtually using the Zoom technology, and waiting for the opportune time to execute once the COVID situation had improved and the restrictions were relaxed a bit to allow us to do this event. So we're happy that we are here and we can actually execute it today. And it's very timely because, as you would have heard on the news today, the numbers seem to be going back up. So you never know, we may very well have some more restrictions coming, so we get this out the way, thank God. Okay? We're really happy that you're all here today to participate in this historic event. We cannot have pulled it off without the hard work and dedication of Lieutenant Colonel Braffett, Major Patrick Skeet, who unfortunately could not attend today too, and the planning team that I just mentioned to you earlier. All right. I also wish to thank the current principal, Mrs. Stacia Austin, and her staff here at the Ellerslie School for their wonderful support in helping us to use their facilities and also to helping us in getting everything ready for this evening's event. So we're very thankful, Madam Principal. Okay. We also want to say thanks for our sponsors, our many sponsors, who generously donated to assist us in being able to meet the costs of putting on an event like this. Now, in terms of cadetting, there were many benefits of being a cadet. Some often see it as a lot of shouting, but it's not all shouting, I can assure you, all right? During our first year as cadets, we would have done a lot of foot drill, synchronized movements, a lot of teamwork. We teach a lot of teamwork and discipline, but also we rely heavily on the support of the number 3 Cadet Company, who introduced us to the regular cadetting curriculum, which include things like map reading, first aid, field craft, weapons training. So all those things were introduced to us as a new company by the Cadet Company, and that was led and supported by Major Skeet, who at that time was a cadet officer in charge of the company at Commonwealth, and he came over and assisted us in helping develop us in our various cadetting skills. So we're very grateful for that support from the number 3 company. In addition to our regular cadet curriculum, we enrolled in the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, which provided more opportunities for the cadets to be involved in wholesome character-building activities. I remember us being involved in hikes around Barbados, camping outdoors in the rural areas across the country, learning about firefighting techniques with the Barbados Fire Service, etc. These activities taught us survival skills, teamwork, and fostered lasting memories and friendships among us. We thoroughly enjoyed these moments, which provided good life learning attributes. Now, our stints in the cadets prepared us well for life's journey and laid the foundation for successful military and civilian careers. It was an honor and privilege to serve in the cadets, and I'm sure we all remain very thankful and proud to having been part of a legacy here at Ellerslie and the cadet history of Barbados. Now, some of the main activities for this evening would include things like remarks from some of our key speakers, which will tell you a bit more about the company, about the cadets, and about our history. We also have some presentations that we made by Dr. Bourne to the founding members, and also a presentation we made to the cadets, to the current cadets, okay? And then we're gonna wrap up with the featured address by Major Boyce, and then the final feature event, which is outside here, the unveiling of the plaque to honor our 2 honorees, okay? I hope everyone will enjoy this short and brief program as we reflect and give recognition to those who made sacrifices for the greater good of others. To the current cadets, I hope you find this ceremony enlightening and inspiring, and having appreciated the historic significance, you will move to share it with current and future cadets and strive to be the best in all that you do. Finally, I commend the contributions of the late Presteen Sobers-Elliott and the then Sergeant Randolph Bourne, and we are internally happy that the official honoring of these 2 wonderful and deserving persons is now taking place here despite the COVID-19 setbacks, right? Long live the number 4 company. Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you very much, Brian. And we continue. We continue with remarks from our principal, the principal of the school, Mrs. Stacia Austin.
Mr. Masters of Ceremonies, Lieutenant Commander John Walcott. Guests of honor, Dr. Randolph Bourne, founding cadet leader. Guests of honor, Mrs. Lynette Murray, sister of the late Presteen Sobers-Elliott. Representative for the commandant, acting of the Barbados Cadet Corps, the Northern Zone Commander, the principal of the Dighton Griffith Secondary School, and our featured speaker, Major Michael Boyce, Deputy Chairman of the Board of Management of the Ellerslie School, Mr. Sean Clark, former CEO of the Barbados Cadet Corps and mentor to the founding cadets, Major Patrick Skeet, officer in charge of the number 4 Cadet Company of the Ellerslie School, Lieutenant Commander Rita Evans, distinguished guests, founding members, members of the media, current members of the number 4 Cadet Company, a blessed good afternoon to you and welcome to the warm auditorium of the Ellerslie School. It is indeed good to see you all. And you will excuse me for not putting back on the glasses, because if I put them on, I'll see you fine, but I can't read a thing on this paper. Therefore, the glasses sit beside me, and I speak to you blindly. It is an honor for me to be here this evening as Mr. Brian, I've forgotten your surname. As Mr. Roberts would have made his contribution, I'm one of those persons who's not a cadet fan. However, I recognize, acknowledge, and appreciate the role that the cadets do play. Major, you won't hurt me after. He's my colleague, so I can do that to him. My task is simply to provide a brief history of the birth and the commencement of the establishment of the number 4 Cadet Company. And I want to express my appreciation and thanks to Major Patrick Skeet, who would have witnessed the passing out parade in 1978, and who was also the training officer in the camp which the cadets would have attended during the summer of 1979 at the former U.S. Navy base, and that was in St. Lucie. He would have also worked very closely with Sergeant Randolph Bourne and Sergeant Presteen Sobers in the early years of the development of the number 4 company. Now, I am not one who is usually nervous when you have to speak, because as my colleague Major Boyce would know, we speak to sometimes 9, sometimes 1,000 students. However, when I'm dealing with so many military people, it makes me a little unnerved. So therefore, you will excuse me if I appear a bit rushed this afternoon, because the sooner I get from up here, the sooner I will be able, to relax. The number 4 Cadet Company was established on Sunday, 23rd of July, 1978, with a parade held at St. Anne's Fort Garrison, St. Michael. The parents of the cadets were invited, and the cadets were formed up in physical training wear, which included a white shirt and blue shorts. Am I correct, Major? I'm asking Major Boyce for some kind of corroboration, but anyhow. Up to that moment, the Ellerslie unit was still seen as an experimental company. On the passing out parade, Sergeant Harlan Lascelles was, on the count of 3. Thank you so very much. That being said, I don't have to repeat it. Who was the parade commander? Corporal Rodney, is it Beckles or Beckless? Thank you so very much. I love you. He was in charge of the number 1 squad. You didn't tell me which one is the number 1 squad. Is it Harrison College or Lord School? There are 2 groups? Okay, thank you so very much for that clarity. This is a teaching institution, a learning institution, so I'm learning this evening. Whereas woman corporal Presteen Sobers, she would have been the commander of, the number 2 squad. That's not a COVID cough, by the way. Just clearing my throat. Lance Corporal Randolph Bourne, he would have commanded the number 3 squad. The establishment became a reality because of the then Lance Corporal Bourne, who would have been pushing from within the Barbados Regiment. Back in 1975, Mr. Cuthbert Brathwaite, he was very eager to have a cadet corps, but it would have been necessary to reach out to other schools. Dr. Bourne's influence on the inside of the regiment, it led to the letters being sent out to the other schools. By then, there was a new principal who responded affirmatively. Another important factor favoring the formation of the unit was that there was a teacher at the school with military experience in the Barbados Regiment. Permission would most likely not have been granted if there was no teacher at the school, this is where Mrs. Presteen Sobers-Elliott came into the picture. She was one of the first set of women to join the Barbados Regiment. In her personal drill and deportment, she was a cut above all others in her group of female soldiers, and she accelerated to the rank of sergeant. It must be understood that except for Officer Cadet Florence Gittins at the time, she had no other role models to follow. She was creating her own standard as she moved along. And if you know anything about Mrs. Presteen Sobers, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. She's also the person that held one of the longest standing records in track and field at the St. Michael's School. It was only broken a few years ago, and it was on the books for a long time. She's spoken very fondly when she's spoken about at the St. Michael's School. She was a physical education teacher here at the then Ellerslie Secondary, and was the life of the school. She was loved and respected by her students. This was a catalyst for the children to gravitate towards the newly formed company. Dr. Randolph Bourne was then a sharpshooter in the Barbados Regiment and a very efficient soldier. And many of my former students, when I asked them what attracted them to the cadets, I had a couple girls that tell me, "Ma'am, it's the gun. I get to go and play with a gun." Dr. Randolph Bourne would have set some very high personal standards. The key factor in his involvement were his attrition and his enthusiasm and his availability. As an insurance agent at Manufactured Life, he was able to control his time and was able to not only attend the training, but he was also able to offer transportation. And whether it be of the uniforms or other paraphernalia of the military, he would put them into his car, brave fella that he was. When the Ellerslie unit eventually got uniforms, they wore the same long pants which the cadet band and the junior cadets wore at the Combermere School, and the same stable belt that the band would have worn for ceremonials. No other cadets besides them wore this uniform. However, instead of the boots, they wore shoes. Practical people here at the Ellerslie School, practical people. On the first occasion that they entered camp at the formal naval base in St. Lucie, they were sensational. Their drill was very sharp. The other three companies had to admit that they were very good at the drill. Then they settled into doing a range of other subjects, like map reading, skill at arms, and fieldcraft. And I believe Brother Roberts spoke about some of those things as well earlier. The efforts put in by the Ellerslie students led to the unit being firmly established. They must be complimented for their enthusiastic response and their drive to put Ellerslie Secondary on the cadetting map. Here are the authentic administrative instructions that would have been listed for their passing out in July of 1978. And there was a long list. But however, what I would have been able to surmise from them is that the evidence of the passing out parade, it spoke for itself. It authenticated what commenced as an experimental cadet company in 1978 to what still remains today as the number 4 cadet company of the Ellerslie School. And having said all of that, which was quite a mouthful and then some, I want to say to you that it meant that those founding members of the establishment of this number 4 company had a determination, a tenacity, and a will to win. And because they did, I'm going to share one of my favorite poems with you. It simply says, "The will to win. If you want a thing bad enough, to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if only desire of it makes you quite mad enough never to tire of it, it makes you hold all other things tawdry and cheap for it. if life seems all empty and useless without it, and all that you scheme and you dream is about it, if gladly you sweat for it, you fret for it, you plan for it, you lose all of your terror of God or man for it, if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity, strength and sagacity, faith, hope and confidence, stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famish and gaunt, nor sickness nor pain of body or brain can turn you away from that thing that you want, if dogged and grim, you besiege and beset it, by the strength of the Lord God Almighty, you will get it. And I thank you very much for working so hard towards the formation of this number 4 company here at the Ellerslie School, that we can continue that legacy that you would have started. My appreciations.
I think Mrs. Austin would have made an excellent sergeant major, y'all think? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think so. Yes, please. Thank you so much. And now we're going to have some tributes, some memories by 2 of our founding members. But before I call them, they're staring at me like, am I next? Am I next? Come on, guys, you know. We all family here, right? You know. I'll tell you a story, though, how it started for me. Then, you okay there? Right. I remember years ago as a server at St. Mary's Church. Yes, I used to go to church one time. I go, yes, Dr. Bourne, I go periodically. I was about 10 years old. And my father at the time, he was the senior server at the time at St. Mary's Church. And we had a meeting in the sacristy there. And then during the meeting, I heard this crunch, 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 crunch. So what is that? You know, I kind of got distracted, and now it's got louder and louder, right? And, you know, I didn't hear anything that Daddy said after that. Then this door opened, and this tall figure stepped in the room. He was about 6'2", and sharp as a tack. Beret, khaki shirt, short pants, patties and boots shining like glass. And he stood erect. He had a demeanor. I looked at him, right? And he says, good evening, Mr. Walker. Good evening all. He took his hat off and he sat down. I looked at him from head to toe. That's the first time I saw him. I was a young server then. I said, Daddy, I don't know what he's doing, but I won't be in that. Right? I won't be in that. So then afterwards, now I came, his name was Dara Woods. I don't know if anybody remember Dara Woods. I said, so what you do? Is I'm a cadet. Cadet? You mean like in the army? He said, well, it's not really army. It's a, you know, junior side, you're in school and you're a cadet. I said, well, I would love to be a cadet. He said, well, if you want to be a cadet, you got to go to either Combermere, he was a Combermere, Harrison College, or Lodge. I said, well, only 3 of those? He said, yes. So you know what you got to do? When the common entrance comes around, you got to pass or one or 3 of those schools. So that was on my mind. That was like one of my dreams, to be a cadet. Time went by, common entrance came up. I said, yes. Then the common entrance, boom. It didn't happen. So my dream was shattered. I remember the day when I was at Wesley Hall School, when they were issuing the results. And the teacher at the time, he called some names in all different schools. I said, Mr. Lord, so, yeah, I get through anything? Boy, you fail, boy. I would never forget that. So my dream was shattered. Anyway, make a long story short, came to Ellerslie, and would you believe that between number 3 company and number 4 is 70 years it took for that to happen, right? And our dream came true, again, thanks to Dr. Bourne here, Presteen Sobers, we had a cadet company. And that's why we, you know, we worked hard. We did everything we had to do to make it happen. You know, we would constantly ask him, so when we get uniform, he would always say very quietly, the uniform is coming. You keep working. You know, the uniform is coming. And we would go again. So we get uniform, we pass no parade, the uniform is coming. Take your time. Always, so smooth, you know, Dr. Bourne. And as was said, we passed out in our white shirts and so on. Eventually, we got our uniform. One single uniform we had. I don't know if you all remember this. We were at St. Lucie, and there was a kind of a segregation kind of thing, because first thing that happened is we had to find leaders. So we had people who did basic training, BT, wearing 3 stripes. I was one of them. Bernard Fort was one, and Randy Charles, who was not here. But then the other cadets saying, "Oh, y'all get promoted so fast," and da-da-da. They were kind of, although we kind of gelled eventually. And I never forget, it was Dr. Miller at the time. I think he was a lieutenant then, right, at that time. And it rained and poured and poured. Remember that, Squires? And he said, right, the rain is falling. Excellent time for field craft. Field craft? That the fellas had training wear and uniform. We had none. So we gone in bush. And it rained, and we crawled about in there, crawled through a lot of cow business. Said hello to some huge frogs, ribbit, you know. And when we came in, we were drenched down to our under some things. And uniform, again, we wore shoes. We wore shoes. The cadets, on the other hand, they had their training wear. I'll never forget, the manager came out and said, right, make sure you got that uniform clean, have it ready for master parade. You know, they didn't thought. But, and I'll never forget, a guy called Gay Griffith. He says, sir, but how are they going to get it done? They only have one uniform. You know? He said, get it done. I said, shh. So we started to work, and everybody came together. They had some big industrial farms. That was at the naval base, right? And we came together, and we cleaned our uniform. People scrubbing and putting them against the fan and drying, and we worked together. Right? Number 1, 2, 3, and 4. We gel. We thought, you know, Mr. Mayor at the time was trying to get us, but he was trying to pull us together. And we got that uniform clean, and we were ready for prayer the next day. I mean, it was a little damp, but we, you know, some of us get belly hurt and that kind of thing. You know, you're standing there, you're bending over and so on. But we got it done. And we made friends for life. We made friends for life. I'll never, ever forget that. Y'all remember that? Let me tell you, boy. I can still taste the frog there now. You know. Anyway, that was my story. One story. And now I'm going to invite 2 founding members. Always ladies first. Yes, Jasmine, you're smiling sweetly. Jasmine Adams, who was sharp as a tack. This young lady here, see her in uniform. Turns and heads, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yes, Jasmine. And she still has this strut. You see the strut there? Good. I preparing you. I relaxing you. Take it away, Jasmine. Get on here, sit down.
Dr. Randolph Bourne, guest of honor, and Mrs. Lynette Murray, representing Presteen Sobers-Elliott. Principal, Mrs. Stacia Austin. Acting Commandant of the Barbados Cadet Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, media. I have been tasked with giving a little talk about Ms. Sobers, Presteen Sobers. And I don't know if I'll be able to ever do her justice. But I can tell you, she impacted our lives tremendously. Let me see if I can get caught here too. I got up this morning and I Googled her name. And in Googling, I saw at the top her name in blue. She likes to write though. And at the bottom, it said legend. I thought it was really eerie. Actually, right now, I don't know if I go back and Google again, if I'm going to find it, because I was thinking that I was dreaming. That's the honest truth. Legend. And she's connected with who we call ourselves, the Ellerslie Legends, you know. And I also saw what came up, one of the first things that came up was her obit. And there were several people who spoke glowingly about her, even a gentleman who had only met her once. I don't know if I'd be able, yes, he said he was impressed by her positive attitude and caring manner, and that was only once that he met her. But what really touched me was this one gentleman. I really forgot to copy the name from another place, and he said that he found her to be a powerful woman, not afraid to pursue any challenge in life. And the major thing that struck me about him is that he said she changed his vision of women in the military. I don't know what his vision was. He didn't say what it was, but we could understand the time and place, gender issues, and a lot of opinions that people would have had and about women and the roles that they should play and that kind of thing. But I want to also relay from her husband the things that he shared with her. And he said she loved everything, everything. Besides being a sportswoman, an officer, and she was a musician and a teacher. Actually, she taught me when I was in second form. But he said that she loved to walk on the frozen lake. And that tells me that, or I should say, it's a testimony to the character, the person, the woman that she was. To walk on a frozen lake, to me, is a very daring thing, because you don't know where the soft spot is. And in my opinion, I'm sure we all share the same opinion. She was a woman who, as I said, dealt with all the challenges that came her way. She was a gentle soul. Dr. Bourne himself will testify to her selflessness once in the shooting competition. She just gave way to him while the other men were ready to tell him, no, we can't allow you this ease at all. And Dr. Bourne then actually won. And she did not feel in any way about his taking the charge, because she knew what he was capable of. And she knew that we were capable of doing well. She pushed us. She was kind. And even on the games field, playing rounders, she was in charge of of PE here at Ellerslie as well. In whatever we did, or wherever we've met her, she was always that person who wanted to help. And I can recall, I really don't remember how old I was, but I had seen her in Whole Town. And she said, Jazzy, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? I said, well, she said, where you off to? I said, I'm going home. She said, where you live? She said, well, I'm going to see my sister. No, I think it was Sandpiper? No, down with Sandridge, right. She said, she said she was going to give me a ride home. When I got near, I said, well, I can walk up the street, I am good. She said, no, I'm taking you with me, and I'm going to take you home. And it is just like, it is she has always, always, and never backed down in no situation at all. I did not even know that she had liked golf. Her husband said she was doing golf in the summer, and in the winter, she was skating. She never stopped thinking, and he said that he believes that she was at her best self when her brain was going and when she was moving. And I think a lot of her students could say the same thing. I think John, our Master of Ceremonies, would agree with me that our formative years when we were in second form, especially Randy and myself and John and Anthony, that she represented the kind of person that, and as people tell me that, Jasmine, no, keep quiet, I'm doing some everything, because I feel that your life should be filled every waking moment. And it ties in also with what our motto is here, tempore sapiente uteri, make wise use of your time. Because I think that when you've done all that you can do, when you're gone from here, we can only speak glowingly of you. Do the best that you can for each and every person. Always have a smile on your face. That's what she was noted for that as well. And I can tell you that our cadet, number 4 cadet company, we've always had, as John said, that unity. Wherever we went, wherever we found each other, we were always a unit tight. And that is what Dr. Bourne, and that is what Sergeant Presteen Sobers-Elliott wanted for us. And it is very significant, too, that she would have touched our lives throughout our journey to this point. And one of the most ironic things that affected me is that when she passed is when I discovered that she was my sister, very close friend. They've spent lots of time in Canada together. And I would have come all the way knowing her brother-in-law, worked with him, everything, and we never knew that we were so connected. My sister's name was Maureen Westwick Brathwaite, and she would have known me as Adams all the time, and Maureen as Estwick all the time, and somehow we never discussed family at that level to really see how it seemed as though it was just meant to be. And I can say, number 4 Cadet Company and myself, we all adore Sergeant Presteen Sobers-Elliott, and her example we want to take not only through us, but through our children. We also want that her name lives on at Ellerslie and the kind of character that she was. Whether or not you like cadets, or whether or not you appreciate the significance of honing the skills and gathering the thoughts of young minds and molding them, I just want to say thank you to her family, and to all my cadet friends who have always been there for me, always a tower of strength. They said they can do it without having to write anything. And I really appreciate the fact that I'm here standing as a testimony to the work and the effort that has been done by these two glowing individuals, Dr. Randolph Bourne and Sergeant Presteen Sobers-Elliott. Thank you.
I'll tell you, Jasmine, though, you see that Latin, I remember as make wise use of your time. But you see that? Tempora, I never learned it. I got flogged for it. Who it was not? I can't remember teaching them. I got stories to tell. But What's that? Temper, Wooting. Temper. But Jasmine, I like you for that. She was always very meticulous. That's why she was here. Jasmine is a very meticulous lady. You know, wants to get all her ducks in a row. Right? All ducks, same color and everything. Anyway, that's Jasmine. Right. Brother Anthony Hall. You're up next, my brother. Anthony was the tallest man in the school. He used to beat me and pet me and stuff when we were at school. And I'm still very scared of him.
Good evening. I was told that we don't have to all repeat the welcomes and the acknowledgements and things like that. So I would say good evening to everyone. It's very ironic that my whole speech has been said already. I just don't know what to say. But I will try to put things in perspective so that you will see the actual role that Randolph Bourne actually played in the formation of the number 4 Cadet Company. Yesterday, I had the privilege to speak with him, and I made the mistake of asking him, give me a little idea of your qualifications. And instantly, I had a barrage of all sorts of qualifications that I had to start writing at one point in time. These things included a PhD in biblical counseling, masters in public admin, masters in elementary education, 3 bachelor degrees, board certified psychotherapist, relationship specialist, certified peacemaker intervener, associate priest at the St. Ambrose Episcopal Church. He worked as a board member with the Board of Education overseas. And at one point, I just started writing, because if I had to call out all of these things, you'll be here the whole night. But to put things in perspective, Randolph Bourne was a very special man. He had a vision. And as was said before, there was a reign of about 70 years where cadets were associated with what was called at that time the older secondary schools. So as John said, when we passed for a newer secondary school, we were considered as dumb, stupid, There was this myth that only certain individuals came from the older secondary schools. But Randolph Bourne was about to prove that wrong, because he believed in us. And he recognized that all we needed was to be given an opportunity, and we can do it. And when you set a level playing field, there's no difference between old and secondary schools. Because right now, as you know, there are a lot of professionals, a lot of entrepreneurs who came from these so-called newer secondary schools. So we are all equal. Taking that into consideration, Lance Corporal Randolph Bourne decided he had to put an end to this 70-year reign that these older secondary schools has with cadets. So he approached Colonel Banfield and said, listen, I would like to start a cadet corps at the newer secondary schools. Colonel Banfield made a historic decision then. He said, go ahead. What I want you to do is to write letters to the schools and see who would be interested. At that time, our principal was Mr. Trotman, and he immediately accepted that challenge. About 64 of us volunteered to enter that corps of individuals who wanted to show the whole of Barbados what we were made of. You see, when that decision was made, a lot of people felt that in your secondary school, we're sure it's going to happen. They doubted us. But what they didn't realize is that we were a group of very ambitious young people. We had the basic foundation. We had commitment. We had dedication. All we needed was to be taught cadetting, the drills and things like that. But we had pride in ourselves. We had pride in our school, something that I find is missing now for a lot of young people. Colonel Banfi told Lance Corporal Bourne, you would need some help. There's a teacher at Ellerslie School who was also in the regiment. Solicit some help from this individual. And that is where Randolph Bourne got into contact with a very curvaceous, vivacious Nubian princess. This woman was so pretty, so lovely. All the young fellas at the school were captivated by this teacher. And she loved it, she was very loving, caring, and she embraced all of us. So with this combination, Randolph Bourne, Presteen Sobers, 64 very enthusiastic students, we became a family, a bonding. And I remember the first thing Lance Corporal Bourne would say, the eyes of Barbados are upon you. So you got to live up to high expectations. You can't fail. He always used to encourage us that. Always keep in mind, eyes are on you. So don't disappoint anyone. So we started training at school and St. Anne's Fort. It would be remiss of me not to mention people like Lucien Lascelles, Sergeant Lascelles, and Corporal Beckers. These were extremely gifted drill individuals. I mean, they taught us so much as far as cadetting and drilling is concerned. So with all of that, we work hard, as John said. It was brutal sometimes. We were insulted, ridiculed, but shouted. Asked if you were stupid, But it built our character, made us strong. And eventually, after a prolonged training period, Lance Corporal Bourne again went back to Colonel Banfield and said, listen, I would like this group now to have a pass-out ceremony. And again, Colonel Banfield said, okay. So as the principal said, it was on the 23rd of July, 1978, that we had the pass-out parade at St. Anne's Fort in front of a set of mesmerized spectators. They couldn't believe what they saw, the technique, the efficiency, the drills that we had. As was said also, we passed out in t-shirts, white blue jeans pants, white pumps or sneakers, but we felt good doing it. We then targeted the Independence Parade. And at that time, Bajans love a good Independence Parade. You'll find Bajans lining the roads, the garrison, because they love to see a good performance at an Independence Parade. And we attended that Independence Parade again, short pants, t-shirts, pumps, but we gave it our all. And we did so well that the then Major Lawrence Quinton openly remarked that the number 4 Cadet Company was the best on parade. And that drew a tremendous applause from the spectators because they had to agree with it. Today I see people marching and they're throwing their hands in the air like they just don't care. But we were told to keep our hands parallel to the ground, right? when we turned, it was sharp and swift. Completely different to what we are seeing now. All right, so once again, Corporal Bourne went back to Colonel Banfield. As John said, we were begging for uniforms for a long time. And finally, we were granted the uniforms. As was said before, it was different to the traditional uniforms of short pants and boots. We had the long khaki pants, we had the shoes, we had the staple belts, which officers used to wear. So we were completely different from the old cadet corps. And I must say that we set a precedence. The uniform that is worn now was first worn by us. And it was, as John said again, as I say most of what I was going to say was said already, we wore it with dignity. Our shoes were always clean. You know, we used to have competitions at school whose shoes were shining the brightest. And we used to use water and, and you know, our uniforms well pressed, pride in ourselves, pride in our schools, and we had. Once again, Corporal Bourne went back to Colonel Banfield. I guess by this time, now, Colonel Banfield was saying, shh, not you again. What is you want, though? But Corporal Bourne wanted some weapons, some guns. As the principal said, there's a fascination with young people about guns, men and women. So we wanted a chance to be saluting with guns and things like that and target shooting. And as usual, I don't know what special connection Lance Corporal Bourne had with Colonel Banfield, but for some reason, Colonel Banfield was always willing to give in to Colonel Bourne. And we were given permission to use the guns. The thing about this wonderful gentleman is that he was always willing to help. So when we had training on evenings at the school, he would pack about 64 rifles in his vehicle and drive all the way down to Ellerslie and give us the opportunity to use these guns, to train with these guns. And as was said, he was very skilled with firearms. He was a sharpshooter, won a lot of competitions for Barbados, so he taught us well. He was very, very efficient. Again, Corporal Bourne never stopped there. He always was pushing us to achieve more, encouraging us to get involved in certain things. And as was said again, he introduced us into the Duke and Annabelle Award scheme, where we were able to receive the bronze and silver awards in that scheme. And that opened up a whole different gambit of things for us. We were able to go hiking all over Barbados, camping, meeting other cadets and things like that. So it expanded our whole outlook on life and the interrelationships we had with other cadet corps. As was said again, we also camped at the Naval Base in St. Lucie. We did a lot of shooting down there, field drills, field map reading, things like that. And again, it was said that the number 4 Cadet Corps, Cadet Company, was the best at that time. So you can see that we always outshined, we always were on top of the traditional cadet corps. But very few people knew that. So all I can say is that with the help of this dedicated individual, Randolph Bourne, we were able to accomplish a lot in a short period of time that it took others years to accomplish, because he was always there, pushing us, motivating us. And I always remember his words, "You can do it. The eyes are on you, but you can do it." And that was so much encouragement, not only in the cadets, but in school, because, you know, people don't know a lot of us got 8 and 9 O-levels. You know, we came out of school, we joined the police force, we joined the defense force, and we really made a significant contribution to Barbados. I just want to say to the founding members, we should be very proud of our accomplishment. We were given opportunities, and instead of throwing them away, we were successful and excelled in everything that we were given to do. We were truly a very special breed and a very special class. And I can proudly say, and I know for a fact, that there will never be such an outstanding set of young women and young men in the history of cadets in Barbados. I leave you with some words that I learned from an individual called Sir Ken Robinson. And he said, "What you do for yourself dies with you when you leave this world. But what you do for others lives forever." And think about those words. If you do something for yourself, no one knows about it, you're selfish, you die, it fades. But when you do something for others, it is remembered. People know about it, people appreciate you for it. So this evening is a fitting testimony of that. Here we have Presteen Sobers-Elliott, and we have Dr. Randolph Bourne, who didn't do things for themselves. They did things for us, for other people. And so this ceremony today is to ensure that what they did for us will live forever. Thank you.
You see? 6'5". You know he was already 6 feet when he was in second form? This man here. Still scared of him, actually. Thank you very much, Anthony, for that. Walking in the past there. That was great. And before we have another tribute in song, I'm going to tell you a story. Well, there's an evening for stories. I too was very fond of my form teacher, Sobers. And as he said, she was one of the most beautiful ladies that passed through this country. She was my form teacher. Oh, Lord have mercy. She, you know, the hair cut down low and these hoop earrings, and lipstick, and the walk. Oh my gosh. I used to answer questions just for her to come in. Mom, can you explain? And she would come by and I'd be like, John Walker, yes, ma'am. But I always considered the two, good cop, bad cop. You know, good cop, bad cop. Sergeant Bourne would look at us in this very smooth, suave way. I don't want to see any of y'all in any trouble. Don't get put in detention, all right? But Sergeant Sober, if I catch anyone in detention, it can be me, I wanna. The problem, it so happened that Sergeant Walcott, in full uniform, it was a Tuesday morning, up there in science lab, and it was a teacher. We used to call him Earthman. I won't say. We used to call him Earthman. Big guy, and he didn't like cadets at all. For some reason, he didn't like me at all. I don't know why he did. I probably talked too much. But anyway, had on my uniform, feeling good. It was the already sergeant had the red sash, because we wore red sashes at the time. And we were doing something in the lab, and he asked a question, and I answered, but he probably didn't hear. And I repeated it. You're shouting at me? I said, no, sir. Detention this evening. But, sir, but you give me back shot too? Detention this evening. No, I'll put it tomorrow. So back in those days, you know, these days now you have to plan, right? The boys, when you're going to detention, let your parents know, you get put in detention, because most of the people who are at this school live in the area. You know, when you see 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, people are still here. The detention room was right there, opposite this door here, near to the office, and we fell in out there. No, we were told not to be caught in detention anytime. How I can get all this? How to think fast. Normally, the teachers would take detention, or the prefects would take detention. I too, fortunately, was a prefect at the time. So when the bell rang, I went there first. And the teacher was there, Miss Jones, who taught us Spanish. You remember Miss Jones? Oh, she was a beauty too. Yeah. Miss Jones, man. Anyway, I digress. Now, we have a lot of beautiful teachers at the school. So I went and went there first, and she came in. She said, I'm not supposed to take detention. No, the prefects are doing to see them, ma'am. You know. Oh, okay, good. Well, ma'am, you go ahead. I'll take care of stuff here, and then I have to go and deal with these cadets. And she turned and she went her merry way, right? And I sat there, opened the book, signing my name. And after 10 people said, are we ready, sir? I'm coming there shortly. Y'all going to fall in. Coming there shortly. Right. That time, they're not there yet. And then they said, listen, y'all in detention here. Y'all look like a pretty good bunch. I'm going to let y'all go early. And I dismissed them. I said, make sure everybody named there. I went to detention. But I was not caught in detention. Right? Because I didn't want to feel the wrath of good cop, bad cop. Sergeant Bourne would look at you and he would look at you with a smile on his face, so something coming, and Sergeant Sobers would tear the bark off of you. So the next day I went, and Earthman, I see you went to detention. Yes, sir, and I do apologize. I learned my lesson, and that was it. So I was not to be caught in detention. Anyway, that's my story. I have a young cadet here. Don't try that here. Right. It's not going to work. Mrs. Austin here is ready. So, you got to try something else. So now we're going to invite to offer tribute in song Charles Bellamy, who at the time was our CQMS, Company Quartermaster Sergeant. The very first Charles Bellamy, and he's going to lead us in song. Take it away, Charles Bellamy.
Good evening, everyone. I couldn't wait to be in the cadets. I thought I was probably ahead of the cadets. So in my last year, Ellerslie, Adrian, and I, who sitting at the back, we were in the Barbados Regiment. We were the only 2 people at school and that served in the Barbados Regiment, which was the reserve of the Barbados Defense Force. And then subsequently, we had the cadets, and I worked with them while serving in the Barbados Defense Force. So I would have served in the Barbados Defense Force from about 1977 to enough years, 26 years or something like that. Anyhow, the song that I will render this evening is a song called Ave Maria. It's a pretty easy song that I trust you like it and enjoy it.
Maria.
never knew that Charles has such a wonderful voice. Did you? Did you? No. You did? Well, geez, darn boy, that is wonderful. Thank you. God is good. All right. At this time, we have a presentation of a trophy. A trophy presented by Dr. Bourne to the OC of number 4 company. The OC is not here at this time. So, Madam Principal, if you'll be so kind to receive the trophy on behalf of the company. Yes, Dr. Bourne.
Okay, to the principal of Ellerslie Secondary School, on the behalf of the number 4. I don't say the number 4 company because you're special. So I always say on the behalf of the number 4, Barbados Cadet Corps, this trophy is presented to you to be competed for the best cadet over the 1-year period. And it gives me great pleasure to present to you this trophy.
Thank you very much. And let me just say, on behalf of the Ellerslie family, Dr. Bourne, I want to express our appreciation and our thanks for the job that you would have done in ensuring that this has become a company that is still going. And your role is nothing to be taken lightly. You were quite pioneerish and you were quite pivotal in the foresight that you had for the Ellerslie family. So thank you so very much.
And at this time, we'll have the presentation of coins to the founding members. now, I guess it's only fitting if you have remarks following those presentations. And first, we'd like to invite back on stage Mrs. Lynette Murray, who will speak on behalf of her sister, the late Mrs. Presteen Sobers-Elliott.
Thank you for creating this historic occasion in honor of our sister Presteen. I'm sure she would have been very proud at being singled out for such a special occasion. Presteen loved the military from early days in life, as Mommy would take us to the garrison to watch the Independence Parade. When the opportunity to enlist arose, she eagerly grabbed it and history was created. She was among the first females to join the Barbados Regiment and the Barbados Defense Force. Additionally, she was among the first female sergeants, and she absolutely loved her three stripes. As a teacher, Presteen saw her role as doing more than passing on education. Instead, she felt that she had a responsibility to also shape the lives and characters of her students. With the development of the idea of forming a cadet corps at Ellerslie School, she saw this as a golden chance to create worthy citizens and discipline youth, helping them to develop their potential. My family and I would like to think that she succeeded in positively impacting the lives of those young students. She was very proud of her cadets. In 2018, on her trip home, she said to me, "Lynette, whatever you're planning, don't forget my cadets." What a wonderful evening we all had, taking photographs, reminiscing, laughing, hugging, not knowing that she was saying her final goodbyes. Let me congratulate the Ellerslie Secondary School for its continued success in developing its cadet company. On behalf of our family, we wish to thank you for this great opportunity. In closing, let me convey Dave's, Presteen's husband, appreciation and gratitude, and his regret for his inability to be present here today. I thank you.
And now, Dr. Randolph Bourne.
Thank you very much. I should say Commander Walcott. It's indeed a great joy and a privilege to stand before you this evening to not give a few remarks, but to help set the history of the establishment of Ellerslie Cadet in place. I know much has been said already, and perhaps the ground has been covered and saturated with everything that transpired during the establishment of the No. 4 Company. But I will be remiss this evening, unlike the Apostle Paul among men, most miserable, if I do not recognize three individuals who were instrumental and supportive in giving me the amber light and then the green light, and never press the button stop for the red light to come on. That is, first of all, the late First Chief of Staff of the Barbados Regiment Defense Force, Colonel Leonard Banfield, the then principal of Ellerslie Secondary School, Mr. Chapman, and most of all, my good friend and colleague, and almost like a sister, the late Presteen Sobers. I promise you I will not be long, because most of you have covered areas of the development of the number 4. I don't say the number 4 company. I say the number 4 because they're special, and I didn't want to link them with the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3. You didn't hear what I said, right? I didn't want to link them with the number 1, Lodge Secondary School, the number 2, Harrison College, and the number 3, Combermere School. So I usually say the number 4. And I take pride and joy in saying the number 4. And I shall continue to say the number 4. And hopefully, shortly, you will have a written narrative to be published on the establishment of the number 4 company. I did not rush it through because I know it was coming here, and there are lots of other things I needed to help set, and listen to me carefully again, help set the history of the extension of cadets in Barbados straight. Since the latter part of 1903 to the early part of 1904, when cadets were started at Lodge School, then Harrison College and Combermere, it took more than 60 years for a young man to come along and see the need to extend cadetting to all secondary schools, and to see the need for all youth in Barbados to be exposed to cadetting. Cadetting was a class company where only the elite secondary schools were privy to cadetting. And for years I battled with the why cadets are not at other schools. It haunted me for years. And having spent 3 years in theological school in Trinidad, when I returned, I approached the chief of staff and said to him, "Excuse me, sir, I was only a lance corporal." But somehow, he always addressed me as Mr. or Bourne. I said, "Excuse me, sir, I have an idea that I wish to pass by you." He says, "What it is?" I says, "Look, we have been having the soldiers exposed to the folk in the city for many years. Why not let us take our activity to the folk in the country areas?" He said, "Okay, Bourne, that sounds like a good idea." I went ahead, became the PRO, and we had displays at Belplain, Plainfield, Rockfield, and it was a success. As a result, many people who had never seen the Army in action saw the Army in action. Then I said that we have the band. We have the young cadets playing, and we have the regimental band. Why not let us take them to various areas in the country? He said again, "Okay, Bourne, it's all yours, take it." I went to Christopher Atherley, who was then, at the time, I think a corporal or sergeant within the Barbados Regiment, and he was quickly promoted to warrant officer. And we combined and had a program at the Government Industrial School, which was a success. My next key idea was, I said, listen, excuse me, sir, why it is that only Combermere College and Lodge have cadets and not the other secondary schools? Why? We are evolving in our educational system. There's no longer the elite Combermere School. There's no longer the college secondary school. There's no longer the elite Lodge School. We have other secondary schools that have developed and established over the years. Why are they being deprived, disenfranchised, and ostracized? He said, okay, Bourne, go to Sergeant Springer and dictate a letter to her. I went to Sergeant Springer, dictated the letter, and the letters were sent out. I was at my office at Manufacturers Life Insurance Company, and I got a call. Someone said, Colonel Banfield is on the phone for you. I went to the phone. He said, Bourne, just like that, I need you to come to headquarters this evening. I got response from a Mr. Trotman at Ellerslie Secondary School. When I went to the office, he showed me the letter. Go ahead, give it to him. Give it to him. Thank you. When I got to the office, he gave me the letter. And he said again, I don't know why he never addressed me as corporal. It is always Bourne or Mr. Bourne. For some reason, I don't know why. He said, it is all yours. I want you to go to, or call Ellerslie School. There's a young lady called Presteen Sobers. I said, I know her, sir. He says, call her and let her work with you. I got on the phone, I called. Presteen came to the phone. I says, Presteen, I am coming to the school this evening. I want you to get every last young individual who are interested in cadetting and have them line up outside the office when I get here this evening, which was a Tuesday evening. I put up my Hillman Hunter, all looking spiffy and nice, ready to move the world for Barbados. And when I got across the office, I saw over 65 young men and women standing in line, ready to join the new number 4. And it was the first time that they had so many female joining a cadet corps. Combermere started, and they recruited about 4 or 5 of them. But when we started, we had over 30 female and equal amount of men ready to take on the challenge. And I'm going to cut short because that is a crux of the major piece. But all the rest you have heard from the others, although I can give you more enlightenment on it, but I am not going to bore you. When the book is published, you'll read all about it. But the number 4, I took a lot of beating for the number 4. I was only a lance corporal, under the age of 30. And those senior men in the army were among themselves questioning, who is Lance Corporal Bourne to be thinking of starting a cadet company? Who does he think he is? But they did not know that the Chief of Staff had given me the green light to get the cadet going, and that is all I need. By this time now, I forgot that I had one stripe on my hand. When I came, you were just young, and now you have grown into mature individuals, responsible, accountable young men and women, and I perhaps, if you all were not members of the Cadet Corps, who know where you would be today. But when we started to train, we went through challenges. I remember many evenings training on the pasture, and there were members from the army. A couple of sergeants would stay on the outside to see what Corporal Bourne was doing with these young men and women. But they were shocked. They were surprised at the success of the number 4. I remember in your first Independence Day parade, in your blue shorts and white t-shirts, that I asked the Chief of Staff to let us have because they didn't have any uniforms. I said, whatever you have, we are going to take because my cadets are ready for parade. And I went and got those shorts and shirts in my car, brought them here, and on that first Independence Day parade, as you walk down Bay Street, passing the bus in front the big building, Major Quinton, who then became Colonel Quinton on the news, said that here comes the new Cadet Company. They're not in uniform. They're in white shorts and t-shirts, but you should see them. The hands are going forward and backward like you have never seen before. They're the best drill on parade. When we got over that and camped at St. Lucie, among those that looked down on the number 4, they could not believe that this was the number 4 company from Ellerslie Secondary School. When I handed over the cadets to Lieutenant Skeet at the time, the Chief of Staff said openly, he said, I cannot promise you all anything, but what I can promise you, that when we start to wear the new uniform, that Ellerslie would be the first to wear the new cadet uniform. I said, sir, we have outgrown the PT. We need some uniform. They didn't have any boots. He said, go to the armory and get Mr. Agard to give you all of the long pants you have, all of the shirts, and all of the shoes. He said, I don't have enough belts, but there's a roll of that staple belt. Let him give you the roll. Take it to Ellerslie. Fit them in it, cut it, let them try it on. And they will be the first to wear the new cadet uniform and the first to wear the new cadet beret and the badge crest. And so said, so done. We had the most cadets that did the BT and AP training. The most ever to take the Duke of Ellenburg Award training. And every step of the way I saw the pride that emanated out of every last cadet that came out of Ellerslie School. They wore that new uniform with pride. They marched with pride. I don't think they really remembered at the time that they were from Ellerslie. I think all they knew that they were members of the Barbados Cadet Corps. And after the drill, I said to the colonel, it is time to move on. We need weapons. And when I look back at it today, I said it was the biggest risk I have ever taken in my life. The biggest risk I have ever taken in my life. A little old Hilmer Mitz. I put 64 flash rifles in my car, not only in the trunk, but in the back seat, and the rifles are exposed. Anybody could have hijacked the car, got the weapons, then I would have been in trouble. And I got them down to Ellerslie, and we begin our weapon training. So to conclude, rather than going any further, I think you would have had a good idea of what the number 4 did. Even when I promoted Bellamy, my memory is good, so don't challenge it. Don't challenge it, because you'll feel embarrassed to know that a man at 77 years old can still have such a sharp memory. When I promoted Charles Bellamy, John Walcott, Randolph Charles, and Bernard Fort, and then it was that young guy in the back, my smart little Army cadet that was always sharp. You know who I mean. The sergeant, even the former chief of staff challenged the promotion. And rather than coming to me, try to do things to degrade the sergeant from the number 4. And he would get in the Army, Marshal, he would get in the Army, Pat, and say the number 1 company, the number 2 company, the number 3 company, and the others. And the others. And I would say, excuse me, sir, there's no others. There's the number 4. And you have to accept the reality there's the number 4. And I'm talking to a major now, lieutenant colonel, and I'm only a corporal now. So you know what that meant for me. They probably call that insubordination. But I was so dumbfounded over the limited ability and the limited awareness of the individual to accept what the number 4 had done. I had to open my mouth. And then to see this day we have people like Commander Roberts that brought one of the Coast Guard boats down through the Caribbean Sea. Roberts, where's Roberts? Right at the door. This is an Ellerslie cadet. I ain't forget you, John Walker. So don't think that you just sit down. And John Walker, who I saw one day on the Independence Day parade, as I think the subaltern or whatever it was. Where's Bellamy? Bellamy probably gone, but Bellamy, who became a serious officer in the Barbados Defense Force. So you're talking about a cadet company that was not supposed to succeed, that was supposed to fail. But you see, this is what class does for us and have been doing for many years. Okay? Because you've not gone to XYZ, you cannot be ABC. But I will close in saying today to all of you, if you have not gone to the major secondary schools, don't think low of yourselves. Remember that you were created in the image and the likeness of Almighty God. And as long as you have that before you, you cannot go wrong. He will be by your side, and I'm happy today that many of my cadets are pastors and serious individuals for Almighty God. So tell yourselves today, whether you've gone there or not, or your kids, talk to your children. Don't let them downgrade themselves. Let them think highly and constantly look up and aim for the best. I said I'm going to close with this one. Now that will probably shock you. I did not go to secondary school in Barbados. I chose to go to technical training. But after coming back from the West Indian School of Theology, the former Speaker of the House, Ishmael Ruitt, saw something in me, and he invited me to the Institute and paid for me to do my O-levels. And I got back 6 O-levels in 1 year. 6 in 1 year. And he had a big picture of myself in the school. Sure enough, I went to New York, went into Harvard University Divinity School, Brooklyn College, Metropolitan College of New York, the College of New Rochelle, United Christian College, and you name it. But I'm just saying to say that because you've not gone in to those so-called, but the playing field is level now. You see, playing field is level. You can still achieve and make it by the grace of Almighty God. So number four, hail to you, congratulations, and I hope that from this day forward, that those from the founding members of the number 4 will continue to keep the light and the torch burning, that you will regenerate interest within the youngsters in the school. And I ask you to help me put this historical narrative in the proper perspective. But if you have not sent me your account, please do so. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to wait until I get everything so the history will be properly recorded. Thank you to the principal for allowing this to happen today. It was to happen last September 22nd, but because of COVID. And I'm standing to you as a man that have survived COVID. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital, 30 days on oxygen, lungs collapsing. They didn't have any answer, no medicine, but the God of my salvation. Came to my bedside, and when the old devil said to me, it's time to go, he said, don't you remember my servant Job? How you tried to destroy him, and I brought him through? Well, take your hands off Randolph Bourne. And I came out of that hospital, still infected with COVID, but today I can rejoice. Up to when I came to this country, I was COVID-free, and I'm thanking God today. So may God bless you. If you have not got tested, get tested. If you have not got the vaccine, get the vaccine. Wear your mask and stay your distance. Again, the Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Roberts and the committee, I thank you all very, very much.
Thank you so much from all levels, Dr. Bourne. Thank you so much for that going on memory lane. You make a big man cry, boy, you don't know. All right, we are all coming on now to that point. And at this time, I'd like to invite my colleague, Major Michael Boyce. I call him 20 Star. We got a thing. To give the featured address, and he's going to speak on behalf of the Commandant, the Acting Commandant, Major Pollitt, who was unable to make it this afternoon. Major Boyce is also the battalion commander for this sector. No further ado, Major Boyce.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I must confess that I have to wear number hats this afternoon. The Master of Ceremony said that yes, I'm the battalion commander for the number 3. I'm also going to represent the Commandant Acting. I'm going to read his words as though he were reading them. And then I'm also going to represent the OC, Lieutenant Commander Evans, who, like the Commandant, through no fault of their own, could not be here this afternoon. but I will say to you as battalion commander, I feel extremely honored and privileged to be here this afternoon. And I'm very thankful for the efforts of Dr. Bourne, then Lance Corporal Bourne, and the late Mrs. Presteen Sobers in establishing the number 4 here at the then Ellerslie Secondary School. And I really think that they deserve a big round of applause for their efforts. And now, on behalf of the Commandant Acting, I say to you, it is indeed a great honor to be asked to deliver this address on this special and August occasion. I remember when I was at school in the 1970s, hearing about the expansion of the Cadet Corps into other secondary schools in the island. Although I attended one of the older grammar schools, as they were called at the time, it was not one of the 3 that boasted of having cadet companies. I also remember seeing the cadets in their height, in their short pants, walking in step in a formal open bus stand in Fairchild Street, and being impressed by the bearing. And I will say to you, young man, today, a cadet from today, this is Major Boyce, I'm interjecting here, I will be paid careful attention to all the former cadets as they came on stage to receive their coin of honor. Even before Commander Walcott said that, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a sergeant. When I watched him walking up there, I mean, all the others have seen it before, but especially in him, I could tell that he was made of that ilk. He was definitely one keen on drill. So I encourage you, young man, to spread the word to the others to do the same. After leaving school, I obtained my first job as a teacher. And by that time, the expansion had started, and there was a cadet company at the school at which I was attached. As fate would have it, I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues who had recently joined the staff of the cadets. And I was impressed with the impact they appeared to have on the school. During that discussion, he indicated that the Barbados Defense Force needed persons to work with the Cadet Corps, and I could come with him and submit an application. I reminded him that I had no prior experience in the military, whereby he said that it was about working with and developing the youth. Plus, with his prior cadet training, he would help me with the military skills component. I remember well our first day of residential training back in 1986, when the instructors gave us a baptism of fire, that one of the participants withdrew from the course before the conclusion of that day. My colleague came to me rather timidly that evening after training, apologizing, and he said to me, "I didn't expect that it would be this rough, and I'm sorry." I told him, "Don't worry, I am green, but I'm going to make it." He said, "Well, Paul, I'm going to be here for you. But why am I telling you about me? This occasion is about the founder members of the Ellerslie School Cadet Unit. Well, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, honorees, ladies and gentlemen, I, in capacity of Major Paulette, I'm here because of the founding member of this unit. You see, that colleague who encouraged me to join up to help the youth, that colleague who stood by me, the greenhorn, during our initial training period, that colleague was a member of the first cohort of the Ellerslie Secondary School Cadet Company that was trained by the late Mrs. Presteen Sobers and the other honorees here tonight. That colleague, ladies and gentlemen, is my friend and fellow officer, Lieutenant Commander John Walcott. Sir, take a bow. When John encouraged me to join, it was not about being in the military. It was about helping to develop the youth through the use of the military model. This has been the model on which the Cadet Corps has operated from the time of its conception back in 1904. It was back then that, as we heard this afternoon before, that according to records of the Lodge School, that Captain Radcliffe Hall, who was a member of the Barbados Volunteer Force, was tasked with developing a program to instill some discipline in the boys of the school. He was assigned this task by the headmaster, Mr. O.D. Emptage, as there were no prefects or monitors within the school. From this, we can pretty much clearly deduce that the Cadet Company was introduced not as a form of punishment, but as a method of bringing organization and some level of authority to students within the school system. The military model was seen then as the most appropriate model, and this has continued to serve us to this day. But what is important to note is that the person who organized and developed this program, which evolved into the Barbados Cadet Corps, although a member of the Barbados Volunteer Force, was first and foremost a teacher. One could say that was his love for working with children and seeing them develop to their true potential is what caused the program to flourish. So much so that the program evolved into such an extent that it eventually was introduced to other schools in the island. We heard of Harrison College and Combermere. This love of working with children, and of course the love for military, is what was the driving force behind the early trainers of this group of young, eager cadets at the then Ellerslie Secondary School. You see, there was a teacher at the school with military experience in the Barbados Regiment. This physical education teacher was reported to be, quote unquote, the life of the school, and was well loved and respected by students. This teacher was none other than Mrs. Presteen Sobers-Elliott. Working with children takes a special bond, a special dedication, because it brings a special kind of challenge. To be able to encourage a child to be responsible and to operate almost to the level of an adult while still being a child takes a phenomenal breed of person. And I will interject here again as Major Boyson say, to join the Cadet Corps, it takes a phenomenal breed of person. I've always told my cadets that it takes a special person to join a cadet and to join the cadets and to be a cadet. This phenomenal breed can be seen in the persons that are being honored today. They took up the mantle and stayed the course through the choppy waters of the expansion of the Corps in 1974. These volunteers gave up their time to assist the youth. To the present officers who are working with the Cadet Corps to this day, in the tradition of Captain Radcliffe Hall. The task is never easy, but to produce silver or gold, a fiery furnace is required. Pounding and polishing is required to bring the shine, and oh, what a shine it is. The goldsmith feels the heat and the sweat. He overlooks the calluses and formed from the hard work of molding his creations, and does his best to conceal the emotions when the finished product is admired by all and sundry. Such is the same with the goldsmiths of the Barbados Cadet Corps, working not to bring glory to themselves, but for the products they turn out. We need to keep this tradition going. For over 100 years, the Barbados Cadet Corps has been maintained by those volunteers who were driven by their love for seeing our children develop to their fullest potential. It all starts with a love for developing our youth, to be able to push them to the limits and beyond, to help them to believe in themselves, whereby they can achieve their goals through our guiding hands. And in the end, they would be able to say, yes, I did it. Our officer corps remains committed as we continue to willingly and eagerly train our youth to be leaders of today and tomorrow. The joys of seeing young people develop continues to be a source of inspiration for us as their leaders. And I know there are others out there who are willing to step up and to assist in the training of our youth. And I encourage them, and you should encourage them as well, to do so. I say to you and to them, step up to the crease, put your bat and pad together, and let us defend the youth from the many negative distractions of today. We are willing to work with you as others have worked with us, but it starts with you, within the heart. As long as you have it in your heart, then we know that the future of our youth are in good hands. Today, we honor those persons who gave selflessly of their time to work with and develop our youth. The commitment of persons like Dr. Randolph Bourne, who was then a sharpshooter in the Barbados Regiment and a very efficient soldier who set high personal standards, is now forever etched in stone. His altruism, his enthusiasm, his availability made the formation and development of this unit a reality. We heard earlier that as an insurance agent and manufacturer's life, he was able to manage his time so he was able not only to attend training, but also to transport the drill purpose weapons and uniforms of his vehicle for the cadets. The establishment of the Cadet Company became a reality because of the then Lance Corporal Bourne pushing from within the Barbados Regiment and having letters sent to other schools. Persons like the then Lieutenant F.E. Gitton and Staff Officer, Barbados Regiment, Harlan Lascelles and Rodney Beckles, all played their part in making the cadet unit a reality. To all those persons and all others who worked in the background unnamed, I extend a heartfelt thank you, as it is because of your unswerving efforts and support that the expansion of the Barbados Cadet Corps became a reality. The unveiling of the plaque here this evening honors the commitment, perseverance, and dedication of two who made the number 4 a reality, and it establishes a permanent landmark to their excellence, their dedication, their perseverance, and most importantly, their love for our youth. And now I'm going to change hats, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the OC Commanding Lieutenant Commander Rita Evans. So as I said earlier, unfortunately could not be here, but she wants to extend her thanks, Dr. Bourne, to you for your efforts, and on behalf of your late sister, ma'am, to you as well, and to your family for having us shared her with the unit here at Ellerslie. And to all you founding members of the number 4 for your hard work in maintaining and establishing and then maintaining the tradition of excellence to see the unit continue today, and for the hard work. She congratulates and commends all of you. And I must say again, as battalion commander, I am extremely honored to be here this afternoon to share in these occasions. Congratulations to our honorees especially, but congratulations also to all the founding members of the number 4. Master of Ceremonies.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the evening is coming. We now move to the time when we unveil our plaque.
Okay, let's all up to the Lord in prayer. My Father, we give thanks certainly for this day, this special occasion that we all enjoy here together, dear Lord. We look upon this revealing of this plaque here now, dear Lord, as a memorial, something that was embedded in our hearts many years ago, and those who were willing to put all on the line for it. We think of Lance Corporal Bourne. We think of Presteen Sobers. We also think about Harlan Lascelles and also Corporal Beckles. Those were the ones who were instrumental in the beginning and the driving force behind this. I also want to mention Bernard as well. Bernard Ford. I look to him as a father always in these cadets. I'm sure the company look up to him as well. So dear Lord, with those in mind, dear Lord, and all of us, for those past, present, and even future to come, that this plaque will be a memory for all to look upon and glory in. We ask none other than in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
There we go. Round of applause. Isn't that lovely?
I want to thank everybody who is here at this prestigious occasion. It's long in coming, but I'm really proud that we finally gotten to this stage where we can honor those who deserve the honor in creating the number 4 cadets at the Ellerslie Secondary School. I want to thank the principal, Mrs. Stacy Austin, and her staff. I also want to thank the chairman, the deputy chairman, Mr. Sean Clark, Dr. Randolph Bourne, honoree, and in honor of Sergeant Presteen Sobers-Elliott, Mrs. Lynette Marie, who stepped in for her beloved sister, and we really, really appreciate that. The last time we met, we really had a good time here in the hall honoring Presteen. I'm really sorry that her husband couldn't make it as well, He's another person that during this short space of time that we met him, we really warmed up to him, and I'm sure most of us fell in love with him as well. So I want to honor him as well for having the time that he spent with Presteen and enjoyed being her husband. We also want to honor those who contributed to this occasion and acknowledge the contributions made by Sagicor Life Inc., who was our main sponsor, again, the Ellerslie School, Field Tech, for the unveiling curtains. Those were very, very lovely curtains, I must say. Ian Jagader, who is the videographer, and I'm sure we will see his wonderful work at the end of this. Mindful Designs, Chantel Clark, who is also a past Ellerslie student, really proud of her, for the flyers and programs and covers that she did. In his absence, Major Patrick Skeet, our beloved Major Skeet, who helped to form the committee and really got us going last year, except for the interruptions of COVID, who put a bit of spoke in our wheel, but we were able to achieve it anyway. Founding members, all of you, we so love each other. I'm sure we know that. We really love each other, and I'm really happy to see all of you here. A lot of you we haven't seen for a long time, but whenever we do, it is as if we never left each other. I really would say that. The planning committee, who met and got everything organized, Melbourne Apartments, Power Technologies Caribbean Limited, Parts Plus Inc., OSI Computer Store, Wing Kwong Restaurant. And now getting to the media, CBC, Nation News, Rico Moore, who's the photographer, Barbados Today, The Advocate News. Service providers were Headstones Are Us, they contributed the plaque, Blades Trophies, the trophies for the cadets, Bajan Buffet, who's providing us with the refreshments, and Petals Paradise, who did this lovely decor that we can see here. It's really, really, really beautiful. So again, thanks to everyone for attending this prestigious occasion. We know Bernard Fort, who flew in. I'm really, really proud to see him. He made the effort to be here. And then there are many others who are not here, who I want to give a good thanks. So they supported us online, and they expressed and they said that they will be here with us in spirit, even though they could not be here. But there are two other persons that I would like to thank in their absence, because they really made a good contribution to us, especially when it came to the Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme, and that is Major David Clark. He took us on many, many hikes all around the island, literally taught us Barbados, so I want to honor him. He's now dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak that we have, the pandemic, and I'm very proud of him and those efforts as well. And I want to say a good heart thanks to the late Richard Goddard. I remember him on our very first hike. We slept down at Goddard's in Fontebelle at his place, and we rose early in the morning, did the train tracks, and we traveled all the way through Paragon, Harry Smith's old house. We camped some places. We also went through Pico, Tenerife. We really, really had a good time as a cadet corps. And so for his contribution in getting us our Duke of Edinburgh Awards, I remember Sir Alexander Abel Smith coming here and awarding us at the Queen's College site by the ministry. That was so long ago. And so I want to thank everybody again for being here, and enjoy the refreshments and just have a good chat with each other. Okay, thank you.